are now tuning in to the Val and Val Show, where conversation is art, 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 art. Conversation is art, conversation is art. You should chime in, ain't no telling what to spot on the Val and Val Show. Ain't no telling the Val and Val Show. You know, ain't no telling where we go on the Val and Val Show. Ain't no ceiling, cause the art of conversation is the flow. It's that creativity available when we speak, available in our homes, available in the streets. We just trying to get it sparking and take it a little deeper. Keep it casual while fireside chatting with our people. Yeah, we take it a little deeper. It get hot when we fireside chatting with our people. Cause conversation is art, conversation is art. You should chime in, ain't no telling what'll spark on the Val, the Val and Val Show, the Val and Val Show.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Val and Val Show. Although the other Val not here, but you're gonna have two Vals starting out at the beginning of the year in January. So welcome everyone. As you all know, I wasn't supposed to be doing any more shows until the beginning of the year. However, I had two people that have been trying to get on, so we got a date. So I had to come back and make sure I got them on. And this topic tonight, you all, it is very necessary. It is very necessary. We are in a crisis as it relates to our children, especially our Black kids, as it relates to their literacy level. And as you all know, we've had Devin Frazier on here, who's the founder of I See Me Inc. Incorporated. We've had Dr. Tamisha Booker, who is an author who has written books. Primarily, she started out for her son, Black boys, but has now branched it out to include girls as well. So Black kids will have a good self-image of themselves in books and everything. So tonight now, listen, we got a guru coming on. And the reason I'm referring to her as such is because you all, this lady right here that I'm going to have on tonight, she could have chosen another path. I mean, she has in a career. Look, I can't give y'all all her accolades. I'm going to let her tell y'all all her life story. However, she's a Bessemer, Alabama native. And for y'all that you know, Bessemer, she a Bessemer native, okay? She holds a doctorate of business administration and a master's of business administration with a minor in project management and a bachelor of international business. So, y'all got it. She know business, okay? And she is also a graduate of the Dale Carnegie School of Excellence and was awarded the Human Relations Award in Achievement. Now, y'all may be wondering, because I know y'all saw the flyer, it say back to the basics, reading, writing, and arithmetic. So y'all probably wondering why this lady is going to be talking about that. Well, you all, I'm just going to tell you right now, she my church member. She's also a minister. And come on in the room. That's Dr. Terry, Dr. Arleen Terry, let me tell you, this lady right here, she got it going on. So she is reinventing herself. Oh, I forgot. She a life coach too. Did I get it all in? How you
I
doing
am doing
tonight?
wonderful. How are you doing, Valerie?
Doing well, doing well. And I am so happy to have you on here. I need everybody watching. Y'all need to go tag people in this because they need to hear this. Every person that's concerned about Black kids in America, not just Birmingham. We're in Birmingham, and she is going to be speaking from the Birmingham side. But you all, we have got to help our kids. We have got to. We've all got to take a stake in this. And you may be wondering, who is you? Look in the
Mhm.
mirror. Take a look in the
Absolutely.
mirror, and you need to get involved with these kids in their lives. Because guess what? The one thing we don't get to choose is who birthed us into this world. We don't get that choice. We don't choose our mother and our father. God does that. And sometimes I be thinking, Lord, what in the world were you thinking? But he said his ways are not my ways. So there's a reason for everything. And I also know you all, the God of this world right now, temporarily, is Satan. So his job is to nullify everything that God said about us. he said we would be great. So that's Satan's job. So I clearly know. But I still be looking at, look, sometimes I side eyed and be like, what's up with you? What's up with that? So, Dr. Terry, how are you
I
doing
am doing
tonight?
simply wonderful, and thank you for this opportunity to be on the Val and Val Conversation Show. I'm real excited.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, so I know you've been in the classroom today, correct?
Correct.
But first of all, before we get to that, so tell us a little bit about go a little bit more in your background, some of the things I introduced you to, and then pivot on to how you got to where you are today and being a teacher.
I can't really explain this to you, but um, after 32 years in the banking, financing, auditing, and having my own mortgage company, I saw some things that I did not like in our children. And I remember growing up because community helped us. You know, we had a mother and a father and grandparents and we had a church. So
Mhm.
the community helped the children within the community. And what I saw was children being belligerent to the parents, saying everything, and even to the elderly people in the community. And nobody's stopping them, nobody's saying anything. And I'm like, this can't be happening because I know for myself growing up, we took so much pride in being who we were as a people. Education was
Yes.
key, and our family and our community pushed education because they knew if you got the education that you need, you were going to another level and you were going to be successful. And now, what I saw when I moved back to Birmingham was education wasn't a priority anymore. A priority,
Okay, you said move back. Where did you come from? Where did you
oh
move
my
back to
word.
from?
I lived
Everywhere.
I lived in Atlanta for 18 years and I had my mortgage broker company there. And I sold that company. And then I moved back to Birmingham for a brief moment because my father was transitioning. And then I took a job in Miami, Florida as a
Okay.
certified fraud examiner. And I was able to audit different banks, different mortgage companies. And one of my clients were Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And then after 8 years, my husband and I decided that we wanted to leave Miami. Miami was getting to be rather,
We got you.
bless their hearts, a lot of value in life was
Yeah.
left there in Miami. But Miami is a good place. Don't get me wrong. Miami is a good place. They have great people there. But we knew we wanted something more um, quieter. So we decided to move back to Birmingham. And Birmingham seemed to be what my husband and I agreed upon, and that was great. But when we
Okay.
got to Birmingham, things was a little different from when I was here initially. And so I shared with my husband as far as getting jobs, as far as advancing, it was totally different than what I experienced when I was here before. And
Hmm.
so I decided, let me do some volunteer work. And I began doing volunteer work and I started seeing a lot of things in the community and outside of the community. And I saw the
Got
disparity there,
you.
the difference there. And I came to my husband, I said, well, I still have my business, but I'd like to do something else. I think I would like to get into the back into school. And so I went back to school and I finished up another degree. And then I decided, maybe teaching is the best way for me because at this time we had lost our only daughter and we only had our
Mm.
grandson, and he was living far from us because he's in Columbus, Georgia. And so I couldn't see him on a daily basis, but I knew that God had put something in me for our children. And the only way that I'm going to be able to share that or impart that in other children is for me to get in the education system. And so,
So basically, what I hear you saying is you decided I see a problem and I'm willing to be a part of the solution.
absolutely. And I think a lot of us can be the part of the solution if we choose to.
Yeah. And I think for me, and we've all been guilty of it. I think one thing, and I'm speaking right now to the black community and as a black woman and as a parent who has had school, been to school and also had children in the school system. Um, Sadly, we bought into some of the negative derogatory terms that was played on us. Like for me, and I referred to where black people live as the hood in the past, but I have not used that terminology in probably over 10 years now because it was like wait a minute. No, we live in
Mhm.
neighborhoods. You don't hear Mountain Brook, you don't hear Homewood in this area. And for those who listen, I'm referring to places around Birmingham, Alabama. For those of you, just name your Homewood or Mountain Brook or your more affluent area, Hoover, where I actually live, as the
Mhm.
hood. But and we seem to take these negative terms, which are speaking
Mhm.
death, and we try to turn them around as terms of endearment. But you cannot take something that was used to make you feel less than. So we need to be cautious and mindful of the words we speak, even with these
Correct.
children. We've been guilty. Oh, that's a bad little 3 or 4 year old. Well, something's going on. There's a root to that behavior, which is not that child's fault. So we really need to pay attention to what we speak over these kids, even though we're seeing that behavior. We need to start examining the root because that a lot of that stuff came from
Mhm.
slavery, those negative terms and everything. So with you making this pivot now to go and be a solution, which I just admire you for doing that, because many would not, because y'all heard the resume, okay? She could be making bank, BAK, capital BAKNK, okay? Exclamation points. However, she's chosen, and y'all know I think teachers do not make enough. They should start out making 100K, period.
Yeah.
Period. So, with that being said, how many years have you been back, or is this your first year back in there?
Back in Birmingham, we've been here
Yes.
since September 2018. And this is my
Uh
second
huh.
year teaching in the urban community. And I like
Okay.
teaching in the urban community because I was reared in the urban community. And so
Gotcha.
that is the reason why I'm at the school that I'm at right now, because I want to be able to impart into those students. Because believe it or not, what we had to deal with when we were growing up is nothing
Ain't even
compared
close.
to what they deal with on a daily basis. And it is affecting every area of their lives, and they're young. And, I always share with my husband, they shouldn't have to go through this. They should get up every morning and they should be prepared to go to school and do the best they can and learn what they can. But they have so many obstacles in their way, just waking up in the morning, getting to school.
I understand. My children, my daughter went to private school from K through third third grade. Then she got accepted into one of the magnet schools, fourth and fifth grade. Okay.
Hmm.
So I was in grad school when she was in fifth grade. So we decided, okay, let her go to a neighborhood school, which was Middle School in my neighborhood, because I lived in Bearview Heights at the time. It was a nightmare, but it was God ordained for me to go through there because I got to see what you're alluding to
Hmm.
there. I remember walking in and they had this board and it had the honor roll students. And I literally sat there and counted each of the names. And it was like 50 kids' name on there. And I was like, it's about 200, it's a lot of kids here. And the assistant principal, and I guess she was reading my mind because I didn't say anything. She said, last year, we only had about 10.
Mm.
So it's a matter of perspective. But what I learned that year in Valise going to that school, there were kids being raised. Over 50% of the kids were being raised either by grandparents or a relative or a good family friend that took them in. Some of them were living in drug houses. They couldn't sleep at night. So they were having to adjust the school day for these kids to come in, to go to sleep in the morning, give them food, And then teachers were sacrificing their families, staying over to make sure they kept them up, and then giving these kids food to go home so they would have dinner. And I was like, wow. Now, I've had to repent of this because at that school, they did not have the books they should have had, like math and science. And I went through a campaign. I got the books because I'm that woman. Uh, but I was so angry, and of course younger, that my solution was, you know what? I'm getting out of Birmingham school system, and looking around all the over mountain communities, I chose Hoover because it was the most diverse, and I didn't. Me and my husband didn't want to go to jail if somebody did something to one of our kids in one of the more um, predominantly white schools. I'm just keeping it
Mhm.
real.
Mhm.
I'm not that. So I chose Hoover. Now I was 35, 36 then maybe. Now, with my 57-year-old self, I would have stayed and fought. I would have stayed. So that's why where I am now. I'm back in Birmingham with my sorority, and beginning to volunteer with some of these programs. That's my, I guess you say that's my, not so much my penance pay, but it's my God. I wish I had a stayed to help
Mhm.
write this. So for those of you out there that's considering leaving whatever school system you think's bad, stay for the kids.
Please
Trust
do.
me, stay and
Mhm.
fight for the kids. Hey, your friend Patricia Salter said, "Hey, Arleen there."
Hello, Patricia.
Yeah, she's on. So you're teaching now. So let's go back to last year, your first year. Were you shocked?
Most definitely. Most definitely. But I prayed about us. Okay, God, if this is what you want me to do, you open this door, then you're going to give me all the tools that I need to be successful. And at this time, I had the sixth grade science, and they had ACAP books. You know, ACAP is a state test that they have to have every
Mm-hmm.
year, and that will determine, what level your children is going to be on, and if they'll be able to get additional money, of course, in that school system. So when I got there, they had ACAPs for reading, they had ACAPs for math, but unfortunately, they did not have ACAP for science.
Mm.
And I was honestly, I was beside myself. I said, "What should I do?" Well, thank God I have an entrepreneur spirit
Of many things.
of
Of
many
many.
things. I said, "Now, I've never let anything stop me before. Why am I going to allow this to stop me now?" So what I did some research, and I reached out to a young lady with AmSty, which came through UAB.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I am at this particular school, and they have nothing for science. And my children have to understand the ACAP test, and they have to understand the questions that's going to be asked on these tests. And she says, "What do you want me to do for you?" I said, "I need the material." And I said, "If you don't mind," because my mother said, "You can't have anything if you don't ask for it." I said, "If you don't mind, would you mind coming and spending a day with me and sit with each one of my students in the class? Do you have that time for me? Because I want them to understand what they're going to be doing on an ACAP test." And believe it or not, she said, "I'll be more than happy to."
Great.
She did that for me. She was so kind. She worked with them. They understood, and they were able to take the ACAP test without any problem. But the sad part for me is I had no material to work with when I went in that school system.
Wow.
None. And they know that these children have to take the science ACAP. But what material are they going to study from?
So let's talk about that. So, what was the reason for not having the material? Because I shared with you, my daughter didn't have a science, a math book, and when I inquired about it, um, and one thing I don't do, let me say this: I don't be throwing around. I'm a nurse. I got degrees and all this. I was just inquiring as a parent regularly. I don't pull out the big guns until you take me there.
Mm-hmm.
And when I inquired, I was just getting dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
Even down to the principal, where it was just like these kids don't take care of nothing. And they didn't. Some of them didn't turn them back in. I told them I had gone on the website. I said, "This is what it says. The Birmingham City Schools are charged to do." And my husband went to see, then I'm gonna call his name, Dr. Shiver, the superintendent, and he my husband said when he walked in, he didn't even look up at him to acknowledge why he was there. And thank God my husband big pretty big guy. He said I almost wanted to break that desk in half. So it ended up I went and looked at the chain of command for the Birmingham City School education system. And when I finally got to the superintendent at that time, his name was Dr. Tommy, I can't remember his last name. And email, it's funny, you all, because the internet was just up. I had Juno Gmail for email. Okay, y'all remember Juno? And it was all dial up. I sent him a email, and I'm a person. My mama taught me timeline and everything. I told him you have 48 hours to get back with me on why my child does not have the critical textbooks, math,
Mm-hmm.
science. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was the year that all the hurricanes came through, Katrina and all those, back to back to back. And his secretary called me and said he assured me that those textbooks would be in Birmingham by such and such date, where the hurricanes came. And she called me back, say, Miss Jones, we can't bring them in no hurricane, but they're coming. When the books got there, to show you how petty it was, and this was probably I got to get out of Birmingham. The principal actually paged my child over the intercom to come to the office. And Felice said when she got in there, she said, Dr. Shiver said, when that truck get there, you make sure that Jones girl get her books first, because her mama is ready to go to Washington. And I told the
Mm-hmm.
superintendent that. I said, if you can't get me no books, I'm ready to catch a flight to DC. Now, with that being said, I could do that because I had the resources and
Mm-hmm.
the wherewithal. The majority of those folks that were at Green Acres didn't have that option, and they were afraid to say something. But then what happened was Valise came almost every day with a note from a battle for me to fight. And like you, I was up for it because I don't like to see anybody taken advantage of, and definitely not someone that is already marginalized and oppressed, and
Mm-hmm.
they just trying to get through life. So you didn't have your resources. So what did you do? How did
Well,
you
we
get
had the science books,
yeah,
but we didn't have the resource for the test.
tests? Yeah,
So how
okay.
can you prepare these children to be successful on a state test
Without the test.
without the resources for it? But all the other grades had resources for the test. And that was a concern because these are sixth graders.
Ooh.
They're just going to middle school.
I
So,
hear her still talking, but me and you both froze, but keep talking.
okay.
I don't know what's going on.
But these were the sixth graders. So now, believe it or not, I teach seventh grade
Okay.
this year. And we have the resource for the seventh grade. So with
Okay.
this AMSTI, and anybody there that happened to be a science teacher, this is an awesome resource for you is to go through AMSTI. Because if you go through AMSTI and get your foundation, which is professional development, get your foundation, they will provide to you all the resources that you need for your class.
Okay.
And that's any of the schools, whether it's in Jefferson County, whether it's in the city of Birmingham. Please, by all means, if you can, reach out to UAB and AMSAT, and your school will learn everything they need to learn about STEMs, and it will not cost any funds from the school or from the parent. And this was so key in those children getting what they need. And secondly, even that being said, I ran into another obstacle when I started. It's because the children was unable to read.
Mm.
They're in the sixth and seventh grade, but they weren't reading on the sixth and seventh grade level. We have lost, and we can say it was COVID, but I deem to say that it was before COVID.
And
It was
COVID
before
just made
COVID.
it worse than what it
Correct.
was.
It was already there, already there. So that being said, we have children that's in the fifth and sixth and seventh grade that actually don't read on the third grade level.
Wow.
That's a problem.
That's a major
We have a
problem.
lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do.
Well, let me share this with you all. She's bringing it up. Have any? I want you all some you all to talk back to me and type yes or no. Do any of you all know about the Alabama Literacy Act?
Mm,
Because if you do not, you need to know about this act. It got passed in 2019
yes.
here in Alabama. And what it is, this year, the third graders in school this year will be held back if they cannot read at third grade level or above third grade level. Now, let me say, they need to be able to read, but it's not the child's fault. So, what do we do? And I know people gonna say, "Where's the parents?" But we have a parenting problem too,
Mm-hmm.
because I know in our community we have a lot of single parents. We also have a lot of parents that are in these inner city places that are in poverty, below the poverty level. They having babies young. And I know we live in this world of speak my truth. Well, I'm gonna speak mine tonight. That is one of predictors. If you are low literacy and you start having all these babies and you cannot take care of them, you're gonna be stuck in poverty forever. Education is one way out. And I'm not talking about you got to go to college.
No.
Because if you can read and become literate, even if you go work in a factory or something, it is going to give you a higher paying job than you being of low literacy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna give you all a link, and it's actually hey, I told them if nothing else paid out with Hoover, I'll say I picked the right place. Hoover actually, I found they have a PowerPoint telling you in very simple terms what this Alabama Literacy Act is going to do. Now, it's a shame. I'm like, third grader going to be held back because they cannot read. Now, we came on and Dr. Terry was talking, I told her, I don't recall not being able to read. My mom was an avid reader, and I learned how to read, God, probably as soon as she got me saying words. By the time I went to K4, because I
Mm-hmm.
went to the Indian reservation kindergarten, I was able to read. I mean, I was reading those Dick and Jane books and all that stuff. I could read those books well and reading actually well above my grade level. So we got these third graders and fourth graders that cannot read. They're going to be held back.
Mm-hmm.
Then they're held back. So we're going to end up with a bottleneck of kids in the pipeline. And I want to share y'all some stats. And these came from Devin Frazier. Y'all, she's the founder and owner of I See Me Inc. I'm dropping all of these in the chat, you all. And I'm not dropping them for you to just say they there. I want you all to go look at these websites, because these are people that are fighting this just like Dr. Terry is. Devin is already a teacher, and I think she's in a leader now at Midfield High School. However, she has a program, you all, and I just dropped all that in the chat. 85% of juveniles who face trial in the juvenile court system are functional illiterate, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
66% of students who cannot read proficiently by the end of fourth grade, y'all, will end up in jail or on welfare.
Mm-hmm.
That came from a website called Do Something. 16% of children not reading on grade school by third grade level will not graduate from high school on time. And actually, what you added, Dr. Terry, you said they won't even graduate from high school because of what? Share with them the reason they won't graduate.
They won't graduate because after a period of time, they will not be promoted to the next grade because they can't read on a third grade level. And they're going to eventually reach 16 and they're just going to drop out of school. And that is absolutely, and I don't like saying this, but I'm going to, that is free labor for the prison system.
So
And
let's
they're,
dig down into that. Talk about that, because we building. Is it one or two mega? How many prisons we building now?
oh my God, we're building a lot of prisons. And that is very disturbing. And that is really one of my crusades right now, These kids have to learn how to read. They have to learn arithmetic. They have to learn how to write. I, I teach 7th grade kids, and they cannot write their names. And I'm thinking, I assuming everybody had the red pencil and the big book. you know, we know what a capital letter is and what a lowercase letter. But guess what? I have children that don't. And I'm now trying to help them to learn how to write complete sentences, how to write a paragraph
In
with
the
just
in the,
three
in the seventh
sentences.
grade, right?
7th grade. And
Wow.
and some of them have not even went to kindergarten at all. And now, and now they're going to have to be tested. Any of your children that have not went to kindergarten that want to enter the 1st grade will
Ooh.
have to be tested. If they went to kindergarten, they can go automatically to the 1st grade. If they did
Wow.
not, they would have to be tested. This is not
Wow.
something that we want to look at this day and age. We have to put something in place for our children. And we, as individuals, African Americans, would have to stop sitting by the sidelines saying, oh, they don't do this, oh, they don't do that. Step up and say,
And
let me help them do this.
and
Because
stop talking about them and putting those, though I say speaking death on them. You need to come along and say, what can I do to help this child? I mean, we got look, if you don't want them running around the neighborhood tearing up stuff, breaking in, getting lawless, because guess what? Guess what happened to the 16-year-old that drops out of high school?
going to prison.
Guess who's gonna be waiting there for him? Probably already done picked up on him. Because one thing those folks that's out there living that life of crime do, they make these kids feel belong. They make them feel important. They have a
Oh my
belonging.
God.
They
Yes.
embrace them. Even though they're gonna misuse them, they still make them feel worthy. And just think, y'all, if you for 11 or 12 and this person doing crime in the street come and laying $50 on you, $100, you in. So we got to get these kids to realize, number one, you don't want to go that way because you're going to be a stat for real, either dead or shot multiple times or whatever. But I wanted to read you all something I looked up online, and I was like, whoa, y'all, I almost thought I was going to have to go call somebody, lay hands on me and pray for me when I got through digging down in all these statistics stuff. Because this is one thing Devin Frazier started I See Me Inc. for, is when she realized there's a direct correlation to low literacy into the prison, from the
Mhm.
school to prison pipeline. And they are building this mega prison, you all, counting on that this literally,
Yes.
even though they got the Alabama Literacy Act
Hmm.
signed,
Yes.
Governor Kay Ivey is banking on that they would not become literate, and they would become, as Dr. Terry said, the free labor, so that they ain't got to pay nobody to make the Alabama tags and whatever else they make in prison. I don't know what else. So we have got to help. And let me say this, you all. I know I've seen some kids that are in elementary age, oh, their behavior. But y'all, what's the root of that behavior?
Thank you so much.
They
Thank you.
weren't born that was not, they weren't
Mhm.
born that way. What's the root? Now the root, you all, for us definitely is the breakdown in the Black community. We don't support each other. Get Yes, we are dispersed all about, but we still can unify. We still can say, sometimes I'm gonna say this. You remember when the church had it wasn't the Easter program. It was what we did something before Operation East at the Fair Park before we did the Easter service this year there. And and I'm gonna call y'all out. The New Rise Star Church member was like, "We going on the west side? Oh, it's dangerous over there, y'all. The east side dangerous. What are you talking about? I'm not afraid to go back to the west side.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you afraid of? You can get killed and mugged out here in Hoover or wherever you are. But it goes back that internalized oppression.
Yeah.
We put down uh, where we come from
Yeah.
and look at it negatively. we see a kid looking some kind of way, that might be all they have to wear. And
Exactly.
my thought is this: if you can't do something to help them, then you just need to leave it alone. And we got to be careful. These kids are always struggling. And I'm going to get Dr. Terry to share now. What is, I know you said earlier, these kids are experiencing things that you and I hadn't experienced at our age that they have to contend with. So, y'all, their life is not your life that you had growing up. So, what are some of the things you have identified?
Some of the things I have identified with the students, and it is disturbing. I have kids sleep in my class. I'm thinking I'm boring, but they just need to sleep. They feel safe there. And all the community, when you go to school, you have to feel safe. And that's part of what we do. We want them to feel safe there. But these are kids that may not have slept any that night because they're dodging bullets, so they can't go to sleep. They may wear the same thing to school. I've seen several because, in the morning, sometimes I'm there when the kids come in. They're wearing pajamas to school, and I'm looking at them. Why do they have on pajamas and a blanket? And they go to
Wow.
their locker, they get their clothes, they go into the bathroom, and they wash up, brush their
Wow.
teeth, and then they get ready to go to class. This is what I'm seeing. I have never seen this before, but this is what I'm seeing now. And they're trying, but they still have problems in their studies, but they're trying. If they don't eat breakfast at school, I would see kids, they're just hungry. They have lunch and they would go around and ask other kids, do you want that? Do you want that? And I'm saying this kid is eating like 3 lunches, but that's the only meal they're getting. That's the only meal they're
Wow.
getting. And then we want them to be able to study. You know, even God can minister the word until he fed the 5,000.
Yes.
They have to eat. They have to
He
survive.
met their need. He met their need.
Exactly. And we don't understand. We have what we have, and we're living really good.
Oh,
But
we
we
throw
don't
tons of
understand.
food in the trash. I don't know if y'all doing that now since grocery store. How you thinking about that before you throw it away? But let me say this to you. Now go back to that. So are they having to keep the children clothes at school now so they can
No,
have
some of
them?
the kids are keeping their clothes at school
So they'll have
because they
them.
may not have
Oh my God.
water at home. They may not be
Jesus.
able to wash their clothes at home. And
Wow.
it was a real eye opener for me because I had never seen anything like this before. I was just blessed. I've never seen anything like this before. And when I saw that, I said, oh my God. And then you have parents that actually work 11 to 7. So the kids are up, doing whatever they want to do and getting back home by 7 because mom gets off at 7, and they don't know what's going on. And then you have these little gangs that actually start, some of them in the middle school. And that's the reason I kind of like monitored some of our school Facebook because people go in there and they clone the Facebook and page, for our school. And they are actually fighting in the bathroom and filming because that's initiation.
Wow.
So they can be a part of something. And for me, at this point, I love on them. They may not ever get a hug, but they're going to get one from me every day. If I see something out of the ordinary, I'm going to say, what's going on? Talk to me. I just want to see how you're doing. And this summer, I had the opportunity to take a PD on mental illness, the first aid of mental illness, how you can detect it, how you can detect if a kid has trauma, how can you detect if a kid's got PTSD, and we have that. We have one example where a young man was in a car accident with his brothers and a couple other people, and they almost died.
Mm.
So now he's not talking about it, but everywhere his brother goes, he goes. If his brother has to practice for basketball, he's going to sit in the gym and wait on his brother
Fear.
because he exactly because he almost lost his brother. So he want to stay as close as he can to his brother because he don't want to lose him. But nobody ever picks that up, you know. So, we want to make sure that our kids are safe. If you don't want to say anything, then that's fine. You know, you can always scan with your telephone because they have that with them all the time, and you can tell something and be anonymous. If you know something is going on, tell what is going on because this will save somebody's life.
It goes back to see something, say something.
Exactly.
If we keep having this mentality of I'm not going to say anything, then nothing is going to be improved. Um, and you all, if you start reporting some of this activity, and cleaning some of this stuff up when it start rather than letting it mushroom and grow. Because when it starts spreading like wildfire, you almost can't get control of it. But let me take a pause. I didn't want to ignore this question that Ms. Gresham had asked. Why do they charge outrageous fees to get your school in a better child in a better school? Now, does the failing school thing still apply? If you're in a failing school, you can transfer your child to a better performing school, right? But
Mhm.
otherwise, you do have to pay. Um, I know one reason they make you pay because their goal is if they're gonna let you in their school system, because you in a bad when you try to go to another one, they want that money. And everybody cannot afford to do that. But I think in Birmingham, you can send your child to another school. However, if you don't have transportation, a bus may not come over to where you are to get them to the school you want to go to. So you kind of
It's true.
in a quagmire. So, Miss Gresham, that's something for us to really explore. If we have a parent that really want to change their child to another school, what is the process if you can't get them there? Is the education system obligated to send buses all over wherever you may be to pick your child up? Do we need to get some community networks of like they did back in the day when they was trying to get us the right to vote? They were
Hmm.
carpooling doing that thing. I think you all in our black community for sure, we're gonna have to make ourselves available through
Yeah.
inconveniencing ourselves.
Yeah. Thank you. And no one wants to be inconvenienced, but right now we're at a crisis with our children. And
Crisis,
I
crisis.
just refuse to let them have my children. Every child I teach, they are my child. And I'm not going to let them get in that system if I can help it. Some things I can't do, but those things that I can, I want to make sure that these children do not get caught up because of their zip code, because who born them. I want to make sure they don't get there because I want you to know it took a village for us to
Yes.
be raised. I thank God for every church member pulled me to the side and said, baby, you don't need to wear that. A baby, that's a little too tight. A baby, I see so much in you. Do you know how much that meant to me?
Yeah.
No.
And we've got to get back to some level of pride
Yes,
and who we are.
yes,
And part of it is going to be us denouncing some of the things that we allow to happen within our race, you all. Um, we've got to start talking to these young girls. And of course, they ain't single by themselves getting pregnant. But what I always tell my daughter, the person carrying the baby, you definitely going to be stuck with the baby. Joe Blow, 50-50, whether he may be available. So that's it. So if you don't want to be tied down with a lot of children, then you don't need to be having them. But then we got to go back and dig at the root to why these young girls, they're looking for love in all the wrong places.
correct.
And then we're having babies sooner, more out of wedlock, 14 and 15. Then you know, generally, if you start at that age, you're going to have many more kids. And the more kids you add on to you already being in poverty, you're digging that hole deeper and deeper and deeper. So for me, one of the things I committed to do, Dr. Terry, up the street from out in Marks Village, where Gate City is, they have a program there called Oak Tree. And that's what their charge is. I'm going to drop their information in there. And I'm going to start volunteering with them. Now, y'all, it's going to inconvenience me. I got to go over there on some Saturday mornings to work with these, I think it's going to be elementary kids. And it's with reading to get them up on their reading.
Hmm.
I'm going to be willing. to use some vacation time to go and be with these children to help them, because there's no use in me having a show with Dr. Terry about back to the basics, having Devin Frazier on here talking about everything she do at I See Me Inc. and not being willing to help. And with that being said, I See Me Inc. She's always looking for donations. I dropped her information in early. I'm going to put the Cash App in there by itself, as well as her website. And guess what? You can donate some of your Starbucks money, okay?
Mm.
Some of your Starbucks money can go toward this, you all. We got to make a decision today. What we going to do? We just going to be complaining and talking about these kids for the rest of our
Mhm.
lives? Or are we going to try to interrupt this cycle? And y'all, since y'all know we talk about spiritual things on here, at our church, we started a series on spiritual warfare. Y'all go read Ephesians 6, okay? Tell you who you're wrestling against. But you're not wrestling against flesh and blood, okay? Y'all, there are demonic spirits
Yeah,
hovering over places and regions, and they have specific assignments,
absolutely.
okay? So we have to pray specifically for what's going on in Birmingham, those folks in California, specifically what's happening there, and wherever you may live. And you all, those of us that say we know Christ, we got power.
Hmm.
We can't stop the evil in the world because the world is under curse, but we can interrupt the cycle and we can lessen the occurrences of these things. And you all, it was where I was reading, they were saying that I lost it on my website, but they were saying if you cannot read, y'all, it's so much that you're not able to do. They were like,
That's true.
you can't fill out a form.
Hmm.
You can't read something to see if somebody finna beat you out of something. And I know we have a lot of people that are still functional illiterate. Now, this is the thing with me. You would think that would not be. You would think that would be people 65 and above in today's world. But you all, we are raising a whole new generation of people with low literacy, and it shouldn't be. Our grandparents, our great grandparents, some of them didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
But we don't have any excuse. And I don't know, since my kids are gone, I don't even know if any of the shows still come on. I remember growing up, those are Saturday morning shows. They were educational
Hmm. Hmm.
things that taught you how to read and write and count. So you all, I want to share this. I found this, and I'm gonna drop this in the chat as well. It's I didn't know this till today, okay? Because I ain't never had a reason to go look it up. It's 5 stages of literacy development. It's the emergent phase that says that's ages 4 to 6. Then you have the alphabet fluency, that's 6 to 7. Words and patterns, 7 to 9. Intermediate reading, 9 to 11. And advanced, 11 to 14. So y'all about 14 years old, pretty much you ought to be able to read on the college level.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So she's in middle school. She just said she got some kids are really almost emergent and alphabetic, learning how to sound out stuff
Hmm.
still. Oh my goodness, y'all, we got a problem.
We do.
We got a big problem. So, with you being a teacher, what are some of the things teachers need and school system need from those of us that are able to help change this?
I think we need to look at each child as an individual. Don't lump them all together. They're not all the same. Some of them just need attention and love. Once you start giving them attention and love, they start trusting you. And then, if you have the time, tutor them in reading, tutor them in writing, tutor them in math. And that's one thing we know. We know how to count. We don't let nobody steal no
Mm-hmm.
money from us, okay? We know how to count. My grandmother should tell you right now, bless her heart, may she rest in peace. She have little money on the dollars all around the house. She know how to count. And she knows when you gave her the right amount back or not. So I say all that jokingly, but, you know, wholeheartedly, I do think what we have learned, we should pass it on.
Yeah.
And we're not passing it on because we expect somebody else to do it. I have a busy schedule, but I decided this week I'm going to take out maybe 2 or 3 hours a week and just tutor because
Okay.
I think that my children deserve that. They may not be, in the seventh grade, it could be in the sixth or the fifth or the fourth, but I'm just going to set some time out just to tutor whoever wants to come because it is important to me that my future will be in place as it should be. It's very important, and it should be important to everyone that's listening to my voice right now. Your future of your kids, your grandkids, your neighbor kids, the kids at your church rest upon what you have learned in the past and what you're still learning. They don't know these things, but you do, and you can help them. I remember distinctly just being around older women as they tell stories and teach us as we were growing
Yeah.
up. And it was just certain things we weren't going to do based on what they shared with us, how to
Yeah.
carry ourselves. You know, I was sharing with her, I saw one young lady pick her son up the other day from school, and she had on baby doll pajamas. And the first thing came to my mind, oh my God, she may have an accident or her car may stop. What she's going to do then? And the children don't think anything of it, and they think that's okay. So they were dressed similar. So these are things that we can actually teach our children and tutor our kids so we can have the best. Our kids do what they see.
True. And boy, they seeing a
They
lot.
are
They
seeing
they
a lot.
twerking,
They do exactly
whatever.
what they see. I deal with angry kids that come in my classroom every morning. And you know why they're angry? Because they just got cussed out in the car. They didn't say, honey, have a good day. Learn something great for mom today. Learn something great for dad today. They literally got cussed out. And they come in there so angry, almost in tears. But this
And
is
they can't even focus on learning because the last thing you heard is a bunch of chaos. I was sharing with you about Oak Tree, and I actually went for the training this Sunday, and they do a training called Trauma Informed. They're gospel centered trauma informed, but that's what they talk about. And the young lady that's over the program, Raquel Patterson, was saying that was sending out the volunteers, and I was on the black one there, and she was saying, "Listen, you all come from different worlds,
Mhm.
but when you step in this world, you function in their world." And they're very adamant. You will not demean a child, talk about a child. She said, because what you're seeing them manifest has some roots and stems that is just real deep. And that these children at their age have saw much more than you all, so we don't tolerate it. She said, our first reaction is not to call the police. Our first reaction is to get with the child and say, hey, come here. And she said, many of them, like you said, Arlene, she said, they need a hug.
Yeah.
They need to feel safe. She said one little boy was so distressed. And she said, before she realized and hugging him, she found herself rocking him. They were rocking. And she said, you all, there's a comfort in rocking,
Mm-hmm.
even in an adult, if they're really spazzing out. And she was, and the one thing you were talking about, adults managing their emotions. She said, if the child is escalating, then you don't need to escalate.
Absolutely.
She said, sometimes I have to go step in another room and take some deep breaths and do me a countdown and realize, okay, let me go find out what happened. Because something happened for them to come back. And you all, let me tell you what they're doing. They're finna actually open a business to start a printing company to employ people in Mark's Village. Now, something else me and Dr. Terry talked about offline was that, y'all, it's a lot of black churches in Birmingham, and I'm sure there's a lot of black churches in y'all area, okay? These black churches need to come together. we could pool resources, not just money, but people. And if need be, we could start schools for our kids we know that may be in stressful situations, that they need a different type of environment to learn. I was in Dr. Terry's school. It's so boring. They ain't changed the process much since I left. But you got a lot of these charter schools now, they're including music and rap and all that into their learning because that's the world they live in. So you got to change how you do education. Now, to me, the school system should be identifying, is this person going to be college bound, entrepreneurship bound, or trade school bound? And that's to me what education should mimic. What, because y'all, I'm seeing some little children like, hey, they can cook way better than me. They chefs already. So they need to be going on hunting that craft. They don't need all this extra stuff that they get. I think the education system, first of all, I ain't gonna even go there tonight. Anywho, I ain't gonna get on that soapbox, Dr. Terry, about the education system. But let me tell y'all, I typed something in the chat. I said, commit to buying books for kids rather than all this other stuff that doesn't benefit them. And I have one company I'm gonna drop in the chat. It's called Hey Carter Books. The CEO and founder is Dr. Tamisha Booker. She is a licensed therapist. She was raised, her mother is white, I believe. So she was raised predominantly around white side of her family. But she married a black man, so she got these black children. And she said she always struggled with her identity growing up. So she saw that pattern of her son too. Like, her mama is white, so that side is white, but his dad's side is black. So now son's like, what am I? So kinky hair, curly hair, whatever. So she started this company called Hey Carter Books and used him to show that you are beautiful, you are handsome, you are smart. And she's also branched it out to children, to girls. So you all can go on Hey Carter Books and buy some books and donate them to I See Me Inc., Miss Devin Fraser Company, as well as give your nieces, your nephews, your children, your church, whatever school in your area, buy some books. This is what I'm doing. I'm gonna try to buy books every month and donate them to various places. I'm gonna even give some to our church because I don't know how many they have in our pre-K program. Because what I See Me Inc. does, Devin does, she gives kids, and she's all in the black belt now, you all. So if they're Hispanic, the majority of their books will be with main characters Hispanic, and then other books of diverse races. So whatever that child's primary race is, they're going to get books showing them in leadership doing great, and then showing the other diversity of other people so they can see we're all here together to work together. So there you go. Hey Carter Books. Now this person right here, y'all, she is Birmingham grown, raised, and bred right here. Her name is Dr. Shay Fagan. Now, Dr. Shay Fagan is a psychologist, and she's only written one book, but she's gonna have many more coming. Hers is called My Feelings Are Okay. It's on Amazon. It helps children understand and help manage their emotions. It's okay to be angry, but you don't want to fight.
Exactly.
Or get the cussing. And you all, let me say this. Some of us don't act as good as the children when we get mad. Okay, so we want them to be better role models. So we got to start being, we want them to be good. We got to be better role models ourselves. So I'm encouraging you all, go out there, order some books. Hey Carter Books got a bundle for $55. You can get several books that you can buy and give them out. I bought some for I call her my grandniece. She's my great niece, but I'm like her grandmother now. And I'm gonna say she's very, very dark skinned, okay? And we know how that rolls.
Yeah.
That could be from within our community and without. So I just gave her a book about her skin being okay and her hair being okay, how she want to wear it. And let me tell you, she got pretty hair anyway. But she sent us a picture. Baby, she had picked it out in the fro. after looking at that book. She's never done that. She's in the seventh grade now. And I was like, look at my girl rocking that fro. But reading that book gave her the courage
Mm-hmm.
to do that. So, y'all, Dr. Terry told y'all what she need. People from other places in the world or the country, find what needs are in your local community.
Yes.
Ask some children at your church. You can look at the children at your church and know that need some help
Yes.
and reach out to them. Churches, you all get some tutoring programs. If you can't do nothing else, you can open up the church twice a week and
Yes.
ask folks to come out and help. Now, church folk, y'all got to be willing to go. We run all over the country for AAU, and your child probably ain't gonna get a basketball scholarship or ain't even going pro. But you run all over town to do all this extra sports stuff. Run over town and try to help these children become literate. Because a lot of
Yes.
those boys that are moving on the basketball court real good, a lot of them, I bet, have low literacy. Low literacy. And I'm gonna share this, y'all. Me and Dr. Terry was glad. I looked up the literacy rates. Alabama ain't at the bottom. We're gonna clap for that. But we very near. So that ain't good either.
No,
But
it's not.
South Carolina, it has Tennessee, Kentucky, South Carolina, Arkansas, Arizona, Georgia, and Florida and Alabama. Now, with the exception of Arizona, because it's a little bit more further south, all of these states that have lower literacy rate, y'all, they're Southern. The Bible Belt, the good old church going folk. Why we reading less than other people?
Mm.
Probably because we focusing on the wrong thing. We building mega prisons rather than putting resources in with that. Speaking of, Dr. Terry, answer this. Do they still have summer programs at school for kids to
Absolutely.
attend?
We have
Okay.
summer programs at school, and you do not have to be, your child does not have to be a student at our school. We have summer
Okay.
programs, we have resource programs for the summer. So, yes, we absolutely have that. So,
Well, how do the kids participate? Or how do parents have their kids participate?
well, the parents just fill out a form and it's free. On some of the programs, it is free, and all they have to do is just make sure their children is 8 o'clock, and we feed them, and we even take them on field trips, and they pick their kids back up at 2. And I
Okay.
will definitely give more information about that during the summer. But your kids still can learn during the summer. And another thing I want to say, I know time is wasting away from us. It's just moving, just moving.
Move. It did. I looked down, but keep
Yes.
going.
But
We got time for everything else. We can keep going for a minute.
what I want to say concerning your children and concerning their education, another concern of mine, and I do want to put this on the table, our children, although they love music, they do not have social skills like they should. And that
Okay.
right there can be a hindrance to them. They can be a very bright young man or young woman, but we won't know that because they don't have social skills. And I ran into this before when I lived in Atlanta with some of the children that was going to the Montessori schools. They did not have social skills, and they could not interact with other children
Mm.
outside of the environment that they were reared in or environment that they are in every day. So this is something that we should take note because social skills is very, very important. And don't
Now,
take
where do you
it
tie that
lightly.
to?
I'm sorry.
You tie that to the cell phones, the games, the
I
everybody
contribute to
separate.
cell phones. I contribute to the games. You know, I'm just going to be really real right now. You do not, you should not allow your child to bring their cell phones or their computers into church. And I see that a lot just to keep them quiet instead of allowing them to interact with other kids. The phone, the telephone, the tablet should remain in the car. And I see that. Even sometimes my husband and I, we would go different places. The family is not having a conversation. They're not
Yes.
having conversation with their kids because they have phones over here. They have telephones for them to play with. The parents on the telephone. What time do you have to interact with your child? When they're in the car, they're going on a trip, they got the telephones, they got the pads. And that may be great going on a trip, but it shouldn't be allowed in the church. We all go to worship, and so the children get a chance to go to children's church. They should enjoy
Yeah.
children's church with other children and interact with other children. And they don't have an opportunity because we want them quiet. So we give them their tablet, we give them their phone, and it is really hurting these kids and the way they deal with other people. And now you have an adult that do not want to be around other people. They don't want to interact. They're very, very talented. They just want to sit there and do what they do so well.
Do.
And that's
Now
not a
I have a
productive life
son.
at
I
all.
have a son. I knew early on he was that person. I mean, he don't like being around a lot of people. I'm since two. However, even with that, we had a time. No, you got to come out here and interact with
Exactly.
people. And also had times. He loved the game, and that's his career now. That's what we nurture him in. But also with gaming, we had cut off times for that. No, come and sit
Exactly.
out here. At one point, up until they probably in their teens, the TV was nobody had TV in their room. TV was in one place. And for me as a parent, I watched what they watched, or we watched a lot of family things. I also ordered some movies that had stories and meanings behind them, like teaching them morals and etiquette and stuff. I know my nephew, he was just Saturday at club girls and boys club teaching etiquette
Hmm.
to some young boys, and it stemmed by how you need to respect yourself, how do you treat your mother, how you treat your niece. And this nephew took my daughter on her first date. She was 13 or 14, and he told when he got through, he said, okay, what you thought? And she said, you did good, you did open the door, you did this. And he told her, he said, when you start dating,
Hmm.
if they're not willing to do what I did tonight, it's it. And look, the child 30 and she's still single because between him and her dad, I said, please, I don't think he coming, boo. But I mean,
He's coming.
she has not. Yeah, it is. She has not backed down on those things, and he's teaching that to his daughter. And because you don't want them, so we're gonna get involved. Dr. Terry, this has been so awesome, and I want everybody on here listening. I want you to get some action
Yes, please.
behind you.
Please.
Get some action. If you find one kid that struggling, that's in a home that they gotta be there, you'll be amazed. I know for me, I didn't want to be my parents, having folks stand with me, but I don't done all that. Okay. I don't did all that. The Lord said it's in your line. But you know what? One child that came to live with me was dyslexic,
Mm.
was in another school system, and they were just ignoring it.
Mhm.
I will say, even though I said I wish I had stayed in Birmingham, God had me come through Hoover. I said for such a time as this, because when she came to live with me, one thing I give Hoover City Schools for, when they got her paperwork and saw that she was dyslexic, they was like, where her laptop? Oh, she's supposed to have a laptop. Oh, they supposed to been doing her oral testing for such and such. It was amazing how she came out
Mhm.
of her shell.
Awesome.
She is now dyslexic. Y'all hear me? She is now a Birmingham City 911 operator. Because when she got the tools she needed and the environment, not being stressed out
Mhm.
with the dyslexia, they told her, yeah, you got dyslexia, but it's not going to stop you from thriving in life.
Awesome.
And what she did before she became a 911 operator, she went and worked for one of those call center for your alarm system. And she called me, she said, TT, she said, I'm doing good. She said, I'm gonna go to be that 911 operator. And sure enough, she's been working now a year. So look at God. You don't know who life you would touch. Now, let me say this, y'all, and we're gonna get off this, but let me say this. You're gonna have to sacrifice to some of your money to help some of these folks,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
That's true.
You can skip an Amazon order, a cappuccino, a trip. It may, if we are children of God, we may have to say, I want to go on this trip, but I need to help this family.
Mm-hmm.
What you gonna choose? What you gonna choose, y'all? As believers, that's what we're called to do. We always talk about what Jesus sacrificed for us. We ain't very willing to sacrifice. We ain't willing to sacrifice $5 for people, okay? So that's it. So, Dr. Terry, I thank you so much. I'm gonna let you give a closing word to the people. What's the final thing you want to say to them?
We are all one. The head can't do anything without the neck. The neck can't do anything without the body. The arms got to be attached to something, so it has to be attached to the body. We are all one. And when we see that, if someone is hurting, that's one of my limbs. Can't go around here with a hurt limb. We need to help them. We are all one. And please take that in consideration. I love you guys. Thank you so much,
Love you.
Val. Thank you so much.
Okay, you all. So we got one more show next week, and that's going to be a surprise guest. And then you all will not be seeing me anymore to early 2024. We're revamping some things. And yes, I was deciding whether to stay on. I've been prayerful about it, and God has led me to stay on because I'm going to be going down not a different path. We're going to still be doing the same things we done, but we're going to be dealing with life and ways we can help each other and just be better. So y'all have a good night. Take care. Be safe out there. Stay on for a minute, Arleen. I'm ending the stream.